mean, I'm not sure if I'm an expert, but I do have a life experience, which has been, which touches on many of the things I think Tia said. So I grew up on a farm in Alabama. There were 8 kids, 2 parents, lived in a very small, like 800 square foot house. We were poor. My parents were not highly educated. My father had a 4th grade education and my mother had a 6th grade education, but they were very amazing parents. I mean, they were wonderful parents. But Tia, I gotta tell you, this is kind of depressing to say, but it actually helped me. My parents said to me, you're gonna have to work twice as hard to get half as much. Same. Because that was kind of the world that they knew. So when I went off to Haverford, when I was at Yale, when I was at the Mass General, and throughout my career, I've kind of had, honestly, the expectation that I've got to be extremely good. Extremely good. And I was always unwilling to be paid half as much. And if you tried to pay me half as much, I had proven to you that I'm extremely good, and I would walk. And most people couldn't tolerate that, so they paid me. So I think, it is, what everything that Tia said is right. And my encouragement to people, again, I had to say this to myself, is I can get mad about it or I can get busy. And I focused on getting busy and really leaving no doubt in the room that I was the most qualified. If you were coming into the Mass General with an MI, I was extremely qualified to do everything we need to do to save your life. And that was kind of how I was able to compete in an environment which Tia, you're absolutely right, which was very excited to give me less and not recognize me enough. You just had to fight through it. And I tell my kids, life isn't necessarily fair, but we have to do well. And if we're gonna do well, you gotta get very busy. It's not fair, but I'm just being real.
Yeah, and the truth is, as Tia's mentioning, we got a lot of work to do. And it's also related to that internal to external, right? Until as a society we can actually change some of this to move it forward. But to Ted's point, how it's going to happen is through effort. And so one of the things that, look, I come at this issue from a place of humility as a person with white male privilege, is to say, look, that it is important that we actually can take meaningful action, not just sort of say that this matters because diverse teams produce a better economic result. It's not about a productivity outcome that I do this for. It's because it's just the right damn thing to do, right? It's a values-based component, right? And so, at the end of the day, we're really proud. We got to work with BWise on creating this program at my firm. By the way, you're all thinking about starting your own business. You can do this as a small entity, right? Because there's lots of large companies out there that have really big groups around diversity, and that's great. They should. I'm glad that they do. I'm glad this topic is kind of becoming more popular around people in my profession. But what I would say is, we had a 2-person people team, and we said, you know what, we're going to create a Boston-wide program to help individuals who are minorities, women, individuals with disabilities, members of the LGBTQ+ community, accelerate their career development to get onto more senior leadership teams and onto boards. And how do we do that? It's not enough for us to do it within inside of our own walls. We want to do it around the community. And so it was just hand-to-hand combat of reaching out to HR directors, talking to people about it, working with individuals to help develop a leadership development curricula, and then building it. In the last 3 years, we've had 60 people go through the program, and Erica's been really generous in donating her time to help actually coach mentors on managing across difference. So that they can be an even more effective mentor. And, that's the hard thing, I think, is sometimes we try to figure out, well, where do we start? What do we do? And we often focus on metrics, and they're important, but I think we need to start with values. And I think we need to connect that to, we all can take individual action. And if we do that, we had Edie Glaude Jr., who's the head of African American Studies, come to our company to talk about the history of racism and the continued history of racism in America. And one of the things he said is if everybody in this country did one intentional act, 300 million people doing an intentional act to move us forward, it would be like taking drops of rainwater and breaking through a dam that basically had held us back in terms of that. And so, you don't necessarily always know where to start, but you can take a step. You can take a step on getting busy, and I think we can all take that step.